I mean, we've already seen it today from Fnatic. Like the lift is pretty darn good, especially with the Ag Shard. Such a great saving spell. Like the fact you can pull back from a mile away is just insane. So you can break up the fights on Fnatic, stop them from getting the jump in. You can also set up for your Leshrac, lift into the Split Earth. That's the setup we were looking for. And you just have a lot of decent enough spells to steal. Like the Aphotic Shield's not too hard to take off. So you can have that Dispel on your side for GXR, and you have more range to cast it as well with the Arcane Supremacy passive on Rubik. So you have a much bigger area to play with to get that save off. Fnatic, they could still build up on their supports. They go with the Mirana, so they've got a great way of clearing out the Enchantress creeps from that lane now as well, and you can start thinking about those off-lane combos. DK, as you mentioned, could work for GXR, but could also work for Fnatic now, as you've got the Dragon Tail arrow combination coming through on the off lane. You could also look for the Sand King, but since I mentioned it, probably not coming out.
All right, we've got another speed run draft coming out here. GXR, they'll go down the Night Stalker route. Fnatic, you talked about Davion. He could come out here. Mirana, DK lane, very, very powerful. What else, though? It does feel like GXR truly intend on kind of doing the same thing Fnatic did last game. Is there any offlane pickups that stand out that might be able to put a stop to that? Like maybe the one you love to point out, John. Maybe the Sand King. What about the Sand King, Jonathan?
It could work. I mean, I mentioned it, so I feel like it's not going to be picked because that's the curse. So since we mentioned it early, probably not going to be picked up. I think I'd still like the DK here, even though Leshrac's good magic damage. Enchantress has pure damage for the impetus, especially as the game scales on. But it does give you a good source of push. It gives you the Dragon Tail arrow combo, and you can just play around that tempo. It doesn't need too much farm. You can give that to the Luna and just kind of set up there for Raven to be the big win condition. So DK could still fit in. It looks like Fnatic is taking their time. If not the DK, if not the Sand King, you have big options like the Tide coming through with Ravage and stuff. It's just a cooldown. Feels like it really hurts the pacing of the game. Like, it's such a massive cooldown for Ravage. Just doesn't feel great. And the uptime for GXR is a lot better. Leshrac has no real long cooldowns to care for. Night Stalker, Dark Ascension is fairly long, but all things considered, not too bad. So you kind of have to match the aggression that comes out from GXR on your offlane. At least have something that can be active. And they go with a Storm Spirit pickup first. So they want to secure their mid. It's starting to maybe consider with the Night Stalker on hand. That's going offlane. Leshrac's going mid. Storm Spirit in that matchup. Fairly even. I'd give Leshrac a slight edge. Just because his wave clear earlier on is a bit easier. But once you have some levels there on your Remnant and on your Overload, it's not too tough for a Storm. You can also just dip into the jungle to keep that farm up. The issue is sharing farm with a Storm Spirit and a Luna can be a bit tough. So you have to ensure that at least one of these heroes has a good lane. So if the jungle does get shared, it's not going to hurt them too badly.
Do you get a little bit concerned, though, like with this Storm Spirit pickup, that it's into a Night Stalker? You know, once you get that blink into the Crippling Fear, it can be quite hard to try and fight back as the Storm. It's it feels like a very confident pick for me from Fnatic. Because it's not only that, but you've got the lift from the Rubik into the Split Earth of the Leshrac. There is plenty of control. Now, mind you, Chuen, he could go ahead and pick up like an early BKB timing on the Storm, and that would kind of nullify all of that. But that's not what we're used to seeing. We're used to seeing either the Kaya build up, or you go for the Orchid. He might be quite susceptible if we do see an early Blink Dagger timing here from Mizu on this Night Stalker.
Yeah, it can be a bit awkward, and that's where GXR's faster pace kicks in. They need to be able to apply that pressure, get that fast blink you mentioned on their offlane for Mizu, and just start jumping that Storm ASAP. Ooh, Fnatic actually going to the Axe here. So it is an offlane Axe for death, but that's where they've been really comfy in running it.
Yeah.
And it's just highly disruptive. You've got the call arrow combo in lane, which still works out. You've got this really big tanky frontliner that can just jump in. Eventually he can buy space out with a Manta, with a Shard, and just deep pushing waves while the Luna keeps farming up. And it scales into the late game pretty nicely. It doesn't really help your issues with the Storm getting caught out in the silence, so that's still a constant worry for Fnatic, but it does give them some really good tempo. Doesn't take too long for the Axe to be a menace As long as you get a Blink Vanguard early, you're pretty okay to join some fights. And you can go from there. You can make it highly disruptive for GXR to get that early pacing because they might have to focus on the axe every single time. And if your focus is on the axe in these fights, that can open up angles for the Storm to not care for the Night Stalker silence as well.
Oh, absolutely. GXR, 5 seconds reserve time, final pick. Oh, they go for the Alacrity Meepo. Oh, they're going all the way, John. Go big or go home. It's going to be an In Your Dream Leshrac, I believe. And Alacrity brings out his famous Meepo in Game 2 of the Best of 5 Grand Final. Can you believe it?
Oh, man. It just slides into the last pick. No one ever expects the last pick Meepo after you run a standard draft. So we'll just have to see how well Alacrity does. The mid matchup now, I mean, the Storm can kind of play the first 2 levels fine, maybe the first 3 levels, but once the Meepo gets access to the jungle and just gets access to his root, Storm does feel kind of bonked here, especially that root control, right? Like if the Storm's just standing there, he gets netted from afar, the poof comes in, the Night Stalker comes into the silence. It's hard for Chuen to actually have a good run, and that's a great response from GXR. They do have to hit those early timings, but their lineup is entirely early now as well compared to Game 1. Fnatic, they went with Luna, they went with the Axe. It can be a bit slower, and the Storm as well. It can be a bit slower to hit those item spikes, hit those level spikes. And I think in that sense, my answer to your question would be GXR. I think their lineup has these early timings that we saw Fnatic pull in Game 1. As long as they hit those timings, it can be hard for Fnatic to get some space out.
Okay, fair enough. I love GXR kind of returning the favor now to Fnatic. We don't want too fast of a grand final here, so you know these two teams they might want to stop trying to speedrun against each other. But we'll see as we are going to get into Game 2 and see how it all does pan out. And by the way, John, I know I've brought this up with you a couple times, but I'm getting really afraid as the new patch is going to come in about this Axe hero, right? Like, I really love playing Axe. You know that. I don't think the Shards Manta thing makes any sense. Like, I don't like this build on Axe right now, this Manta Shards build up. But I have a feeling when the new patch comes out, they're not going to nerf that. They're going to nerf the actual hero again.
Yeah, it's a possibility. You know, it feels like Axe has been dead for such a long time as well, like before the Shard. Yeah, because the blade mail changes really hurt the hero and just kind of fell out of meta. And if they actually hit the hero again, it would feel a bit awkward. I'm not sure how you handle it. Like,
I just thought they would get rid of the Manta, John. Like, just don't let them spin on Manta illusions. What's wrong with that? We don't need to nerf the Shards.
Yeah, like that could have been one way, but I think that would be one of those things. You know, you'd start making exceptions on certain illusions. It could break interactions. It's too much work.
Now that's what I'm talking about.
Fair enough, John.
Now that's what I'm talking about.
It's very depressing for me though, because I know this this hero's going right back into the bin in this new patch. It's very, very sad going into TI.
The battle begins.
Oh yeah.
Chuen.
Oh.
Yeah, quick bounty. Top lane. Yeah, DJ, he copped a bit of harassment, but won't even need to eat a tango. He'll be alright. Make his way back up to the top lane. And while we're at the top lane, John, we may as well start there. You've got DJ, you've got Raven on that Luna Abaddon against the likes of Mizu on the offlane Night Stalker and Jokam on that position for Rubik. This kind of lane, who do you think it favors? You think anyone's at a massive disadvantage? Should we be expecting like an even trading lane? What are you thinking?
For the first 5 minutes, it's going to feel a lot better here for Fnatic. Like, it's down to Jokam to really prevent Raven from getting good farm. DJ's doing a good job of just putting his body forward once more. And there's not much a Night Stalker can do in these early levels to actually stop Aluna from farming. Like, she's just going to build up, get her farm up. Mizu can't even soak EXP right now. He's forced all the way back to his second wave. Jokam will get a pull off, and that can be the way to build up. But in terms of stopping Aluna farm, I don't see it happening. Raven should just be able to build up, hit his item spikes, go for that fast Mask of Madness, and just start clearing out the jungle early.
Jeez, look at Jokam, though. DJ is just well and truly harassed the crap out of this Rubik. He's not stopping either. Like, with this much of an HP advantage, he's going to keep going. However, bot lane, Polison is going to be first blood death, able to secure it with the bloodlust, or rather battle hunger. It's one of those things you just mix up the spells from the old Dota 1.
I'm dead.
Alacrity, though, he's still fine.
Yeah, this is an interesting shakeup though. They're running the Meepo safe instead of the Meepo mid, and Alacrity's just getting run down. He has to be careful.
Yeah. He's actually a lot of damage.
Oh, good jukes.
Very good jukes. But Death's still going to be able to chase him. You've got another Battle Hunger up in about 4 seconds. I think Death just wants to chuck another one at him. I mean, why the hell not? Just keep the chase up. That's the target you want. Jabs, he's going to leap forward. Arrow, not going to be thrown. Perhaps they might have enough with the Battle Hunger, but no. Just with the Tango and the tower regen, Alacrity is going to be able to kind of subside that damage, and they'll salve him up, and he'll be able to remain in the lane. But I like the fact that this offlane of Fnatic is being just so aggressive before Alacrity does hit those spikes.
Yeah, he's just not able to really get that early farm, early XP. There's a massive wave for Death to clear out with a counter Helix coming in now. So you're really setting up on this Axe lane, and it just feels such a good start here for Fnatic. Again, they did avoid the Storm Meepo lane, which I don't really think is too bad for a Meepo. At least once you hit your levels up, you just go into jungle. And this one should be the same story. Once you have that Divided We Stand leveled up, you can start to control the lane a bit better. But you do have to watch for that Axe. It is getting a good start.
I was talking about the mid lane as well. In your dream on that Leshrac, was there against Chuen. He did back off for a bit, but Chuen's having a really nice time in terms of CS. In fact, top lane, Mizu gets very, very low there. Jokam saved with the lift, but DJ's going for the dive in, and they'll get him. In fact, DJ's having a look around for Mizu now. Leave Mizu alone. We'll go after the bounty instead. And Fnatic, so far, for the first 3.5 minutes, they've been looking extremely clean, as now Alacrity is being chased again. Paulson dropping low with the Battle Hunger. He's not going to drop. But they will continue this aggression. Death, he will not allow Alacrity to even think about getting close to those creeps.
Yeah, and this is just really slowing down that pace for the Meepo. You're just not able to get that flash farm. You're not able to clear out the creep wave with Poof. It is slowing him down massively. Like, look at the difference in CS. Alacrity 8-0, Raven 16-7, and it just doesn't feel good.
Call just barely off the mark there. Alacrity, he might have died had that call landed. They got a couple lucky spins going. Yeah, like you were talking about. I mean, everything's just going well here for Fnatic. Like, Chuen, 29-5, having the greatest time of his life. Because in your dream, he does generally play the safe lane, and of course his timing hasn't hit yet. You are going to need a lot more time on this Leshrac to really start feeling the impact of the hero. And Chuen is just trying to take as much kind of advantage as he possibly can while he still can.
Yeah, just building up farm, maybe trying to hit those early item spikes. That's going to be the big one. Just whether or not he goes for the Kaya or the Orchid is the question on mine. And how he kind of deals with that eventual silence coming out from the Night Stalker. Because for now, it looks good for Fnatic, sure. But once GXR has a couple of these spells ready to go, once they have a couple of levels up, the game can shift a bit. And it can feel awkward. Like, they still have the tools on hand from GXR to get their own aggression off and get their own control off down the line. And they are doing a decent job of at least stemming the tide for a bit. They're not losing out massively for the most part. They are still finding what they can here.
Yeah, Alacrity now at least is able to avoid death on this Axe. As Death, he understands he can be greedy now. We'll start moving into the jungle with the creep wave and just kind of double farming. I think there's no real reason for him to stay around Alacrity if he can't secure the kill. He may as well just escalate his own farm up. And of course, you've always got to be worried about this. Like, you might focus on the Luna as GXR, but Death is like that secondary position 1 on the Axe. Like, once he has that Manta Shards, it feels like it's almost game over. It's just a massive, massive problem, as Alacrity's going to run right into him. He'll take the call. The spins won't do too much damage. Alacrity, he's had enough. Just back to the lane. Farm out the creep wave, and well, this is that time where Alacrity needs to spend his time catching up in CS.
Yeah, he's got to dip into the jungle, clear out some stacks while he can. And then In Your Dream has cleared out the first set of stacks in the triangle though. But at the least with these levels up, with the poof ready on the Meepo clone, they can start to get some good wave clear, although
Yeah, DJ is It's been called out. No level 6. In fact, he's only level 3. The deny, though. Oh, that is a cheeky deny from DJ. Miscall out to aggro Roshan, and you've got to be annoyed about that if you're GXR. I mean, I would be furious.
Oh yeah. No, there's no way you're even satisfied with that. You waste your time in your mid to chase down a kill. You don't even get to transition to the jungle gank, which is really what you want to do. Catch Raven out, stop him from farming. He is still under a ward, and they are still in the area, but Chuen.
Chuen's going to come in. Arrow setup is there from Jabs. A nice, easy pick off. Jocam now probably going to realize he was underneath an observer ward the whole time. So it looks like he was just trying to soak XP away from Raven on the Luna. And he does get a bit, but not enough to really matter. Meanwhile, bottom lane, big group up here onto Death. He's going to try and call to survive, but they've got so much control. Eventually, they will be able to get through him. In your dream, the one to take the kill on the Leshrac.
An important kill for them to find. Just starting to build up on that Lesh, and in your dream, he doesn't quite have maxed Edict. In stark contrast to Chuen's build last time, he did mix it up, going for a 2-2-1 build. So he's got a spread of magical damage, just to ensure that they have good control, good damage to melt through the axe. The one thing right now for GXR is that you need to start thinking about tower push, especially while it's nighttime, while you have this Edict up. You want to melt some objectives to really bully in the jungle.
Oh, Chuen, he missed that on that Arcane Rune. In your dream, he's going to pop it, maybe go for the fight. DJ, he came in to try and help out, but he might just drop here as in your dream. Able to find a secondary pick-off. In the meantime, Paulison, he does end up dying to Death. So Death solos him while taking the Ancient Stack. So it's going to be a 1-for-1 trade across the map. Apparently Jabs also died in the process though, so more like a 2-for-1.
I believe Jabs did manage to get the Knight to neutral, so it's not the biggest loss there for Fnatic. They're still holding steady, and while all this action happens, you have Raven free farming in the top jungle. So your Luna is still hitting its farming spikes with a Mask of Madness. It doesn't take too long to accelerate, and then Alacrity.
And a bit of trouble. Nice call out. Arrow is going to land on one of the Meepos, and with Chuen there on the Storm, you've got plenty of damage. It's Alacrity. He's had a very tough start to this game. It's not getting much easier. It's one of those things about Meepo. If you get caught out a couple too many times during the earlier stages of the game, you can feel kind of weak.
Yeah, he's not been getting farm priority as well. It's still In Your Dream who gets the space out. So it looks like they're just relying on the Leshrac for now to get an early item spike to really boost his output in the middle of these fights. And that will put your Meepo on the back foot. Like, Alacrity now needs to get some space to get his stat items up. Going for what looks to be double Dragon Lance for just good strength and agi. And that should help him sustain himself once that's up. They did manage to catch DJ.
Yeah, he never gets to break this guy. Just trying to hit his level 6 timing on that Abaddon, but he is going to drop it now. The mid-tier 1 tower obviously is going to be trying to be focused by GXR. But the glyph is there. They'll have to wait for the next Diabolic Edict before they can go much further. I think In Your Dream, he might want to go for a reset. He's got no mana going for him. He'll have just enough for the Edict. In fact, he seems to believe that's going to be enough. Fnatic, they will rotate in to try and defend this, but that tower is almost gone. Chuen is going to jump in with the Vortex. It might cost him his life, but In Your Dream does get the tier 1 before he does go down. Now Jocam will be chased, and Chuen, he'll take another kill on the Storm.
And that's big. I'm sure you lost your mid-tier 1, but because you get those 2 kills, you can start looking for your mid-tier 1 push as well, and you already multed the bot tier 1. So it's going to be a very straightforward push here coming out from Fnatic. It goes down to Raven having this Mask of Madness as well. He can join these fights.
Oh, nice call, Death.
Call.
Yeah, he blinks right in. Vortex is there. Arrow going to fly right through on Death. Get the nice dunk off as Mizu. He popped the ulti. He wants to try and get something out of this, but it looks like he's going to get naught. There's now another call, Death! He found a double call out. Mizu, he has to run. Crippling Fear to try and survive. Arrow, it'll be off the mark, but Death, the reinitiation. And I've got to say, John, I've been very impressed with Death's axe. He's just always on the mark when it comes to these counter initiations.
Yeah, he's just on point with his movement, and it's the combination with Axe Abaddon. You blink in, you have the shield up, you get it bursted, you get an immediate burst of damage out in the AoE as well. Very easy to get control, to get that immediate Culling Blade off. and there's just no counterplay for GXR. You're still trying to hold on, 3-9, 3k lead for Fnatic, but we talked about timings. GXR, they're the ones with a Meepo, they're the ones with a Leshrac. Their win conditions don't scale all the way to the late game, and they need to start ramping up, especially for Alacrity. They got to give this Meepo room to grow and get these initial items up. First Dragon Lance done, second one on the way, but you need to see the E-Blade and Blink very, very soon here.
Got another call off on Paulison. He doesn't actually get any spins though. Enchant is there, but he will blink away. In fact, now In Your Dream showing up with the Moonlight Shadow. They're going to zip In Your Dream. He's been caught up by the Vortex and the Arrow. From a mile away. It's off the back of death again, John. This axe. Yeah, he didn't get Paulson to start, but In Your Dream came in to try and help out, and they capitalize.
Yeah, they're just so aggressive. Fnatic. Again, this is the lineup we expected to take it slower, but they're just willing to show up. Look at Raven. He's taking the forward position to get the tier 2 push very early on. He's not just AFK farming on the Luna, and it just goes back to that Mask of Madness build. You have so much presence with your right clicks with that build, and that gets its another call.
Yeah, arrow out. Jokam, he had his own arrow, but it won't matter. It's death. He is just all over the map on this axe. And this is something you don't get to see very often, is an axe being this proactively aggressive. But that's exactly what Death's doing. He's not wasting his time trying to farm or compete with the position ones. He'll just keep the aggression up. And Mizu, he's going to pop the ulti again. Arrow, going to be off the mark on jabs. Mizu, he'll try to get the vision. And Mizu, he'll get a tip. Jabs, he loves what he's seeing.
They can't follow up, and that's a really long cooldown on Dark Ascension. The uptime is... I said it wasn't pretty bad in the draft. I forget that the cooldown's so long, the duration's only 30, that there's a lot of downtime there. So GXR can't really make a play. We talked about this Night Stalker being great against the Storm. The Blink is coming in for Mizu. They just need to play with that now. Just blink in, get the AoE stuns, try to get the lockdown on those big heroes, and burst them down ASAP. But it just doesn't feel like it's coming out quick enough.
Death. This time they should be able to get him. Enchant is there. He wasn't able to blink out in time. They'll land the Split Earth and the arrow from Jokam. And no help will be around quick enough to be able to survive the axe. However, DJ's going to walk in looking for more. Raven, he does have the level 2 Eclipse up now. Paulison. Oh, nice cliff there from Jokam onto DJ. And that should be a free Abaddon kill, but the team is still around to try and help him out. Now the zip in. Chuan is there. Arrow, Eclipse, all of them being thrown out. Alacrity, though, he tanks through the Eclipse. They're going to find jabs as well. And now In Your Dream moves in. They get Raven. And poor old DJ, he is still on top of the cliff. And eventually will die. And, I mean, GXR, they played that perfectly.
Isolating the Abaddon is what really enabled it. Like, they couldn't find a way to purge off the net that came out on Chuen, and so the Storm was caught out, just got bursted down, and they just managed to run it in. You have to really be careful with where you put DJ here. You have to always be aware of the cliff. Maybe a fast Force Staff helps the cause here, just to get yourself in position or out of a bad spot. And that also boils down to Death just being really aggressive in that farming spot. Like, he was farming that camp. He cleared out, I believe, an Obs ward while Paulson was trying to clear it, and he didn't respect the fact they could TP right to the outpost, right to the tier 2 to find that kill. GXR, they find a nice opening, but Fnatic, it doesn't look like they're dissuaded. They just smoke up. They're going to try to hunt, and they've got Blink Call still ready to go. If they find the right targets, it could shape up well.
Oh, Mizu, he's going to break the smoke. We may have seen them now. DJ's going to run up. Zip forward. Who have they found? It's going to be Paulson. He'll get the heal out in time, but Chuen is going to hold him down. Paulson, though, he gets a nice stomp off in the backside, but Death, he's there with the call, and that should be enough. They will miss the dunk, but it won't matter. It was enough damage to allow Chuen to get the kill there on the Storm. They might even go for more now. Mizu, he's still hanging around. He's on the vision right now. Chuen's going to zip. But the blink is there from Mizu. And now, bot side, they found Alacrity on the Meepo. Arrow to follow through as well. In Your Dream, he's trying to help. It's a lot of damage with the Pulse Nova, but it's not enough. Not yet anyway. They'll go after Chuen. In Your Dream, he's about to drop DJ. He'll go for the chase himself, the Mist Coil. It's barely not going to be enough. DJ needs the back. Mizu does chase down jabs and gets the kill. In fact, they'll even get DJ. A full team wipe once again here from GXR. And Fnatic
Dire's top
just
tower
proving to go a little bit too
attack.
far. They just weren't satisfied with the Alacrity kill. They wanted more. They do get punished for it.
The damage output right now from In Your Dreams just too much to handle. They don't have anything like a pipe, nothing to stop the magical burst from flying through, and he just melts all the heroes of Fnatic once they're up front. I think Fnatic might want to wait for some of those BKBs to be online. You are rushing it on Raven, and even Chuen is trying to save up for it. So just wait for the BKB spikes before forcing the next fight. You take away the silence, you take away the less rack damage. You start to feel better in those engagements. Very good reads from GXR though. I mean, they sacrificed their Meepo, but you do get the kills with In Your Dream. His presence is growing bigger. He's got the Bloodstone up, so he's a little bit harder to kill off, especially if he manages to pop that active. He's going to be able to really apply the damage for his team while they're strong. 3k lead now for GXR, starting to climb back their way. They need to be able to transition from those kills into an objective or two, or at least just take over the map a bit more with some aggressive wards. But for now, just holding on to their bot jungle has been paying off.
And it has. Moonlight Shadow committed here from Fnatic. Not gonna lead to anything though. Looks like they may have assumed the smoke was happening, but just not the case. GXR, they're more than happy to keep their own farm going. Props to Alacrity just catching up so well on this Meepo now. Second in net worth. Going for the standard Dragon Lances that you do tend to see. The Ethereal Blade straight after. Of course, how could you forget the Aghanim Scepter? Gotta get those extra Meepos. GXR. I mean, usually you'd assume that this kind of draft would need to perhaps be a little bit more aggressive at this timing, but they may just have faith that In Your Dream and Alacrity will be able to kind of shift into the late game with no issue.
Yeah, I think there's a big spike for them come mid-game, like at this point towards the 25-35 minute mark, where they can overwhelm Fnatic. Like BKBs have to fly out for Fnatic for them to have a fighting chance. Even then, the damage output that can come through from Alacrity is going to be pretty high. The point for Fnatic to turn back in that theoretical scenario is when Chuen can get an Ags up. So if you can zip, just Vortex up the Meepos, immediately try to burst one of them down, and set up for a call. And that's when it starts turning around. But GXR is doing a good job of just working this map now, getting the build up. Have to point out, the Meepo Ags did change, so it is basically a dig, kind of like a burrow from the Knicks, right?
Oh.
Like you go into the ground for a bit, dispel, invulnerable, untargetable, and regen up. So you can kind of juke out with those clones if you manage to micro them well and they don't get controlled up.
Thank you for that, John. Yeah, as you could probably tell, I don't get to play Meepo very often because I'm not very good at it, you know, as most people. That does sound like a very interesting Aghanim Scepter. I can't wait to see it in play. I haven't had the pleasure yet, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen it as well in the pro games where we've seen Meepo. Usually the game just ends by the time you have 2 Dragon Lances and E-Blade. Still, Fnatic, they've smoked up. They did get broken by Paulson on the high ground, and they don't manage to really get the jump in. And they are under a ward now.
Come get healed.
Paulson, yeah, he'll reveal that they are under vision. Moonlight Shadow is there. And Fnatic, they are immediately going to back. Chuen, he still does find an Arcane Rune down at the bot rune spot. So not all is really bad, as they might still try to force an initiation, Fnatic. GXR, they are kind of standing their ground. They look prepared for it. And of course, Paulson, he's not going to be the easiest target to try and burst down on that Enchantress. So in the end, they won't try to make their way up to that high ground of that Radiant Triangle. Seems like they do want to try to at least make use of this BKB on Raven. But the timing just is not going to be right quite yet.
Yeah, I think you're still pretty fine waiting out like this because Chuen doesn't have his own BKB. So you might want to have that up on your Storm before fully committing for these fights. The side of GXR, again, they've been working the map perfectly well. They're hitting these item spikes slowly but surely. And eventually, you're going to have to deal with that E-Blade on Alacrity. So that's when things get pretty dicey. The magical burst is going to amp up here on GXR's end.
Oh, there. He's in. They'll go after Paulson this time around. They see the D-Ward happening. They won't allow it. It's not too hard with the axe. If you do get those spins off, you don't really care too much about the untouchable. Speaking of timings, John, Death is getting close to that Manta Shards build-up. I wonder if GXR are kind of underestimating how powerful it is, or whether they just have no choice in the matter. They feel like they need their own farmer.
I think they have no choice. Like, they can't really force the issue. Despite taking those couple of kills, they don't really have an item advantage on a Meepo Lesh. And once the BKBs are revealed, that's when it gets harder to pin these heroes down. You do at least have the BKB up on Mizu, so the Night Stalker can also stand forward, but BKB against BKB for a Night Stalker, it feels like he loses out, because he's not getting the silence off, he's not getting the control he needs, and he was drafted for to deal with the Storm. So overall, the Storm's still pretty happy if both of them pop their BKBs at the same time. Once it fades, the Storm's in a better spot. So head-to-head in that kind of item usage, it feels better for Fnatic. And as the game scales late, or at least later, you know, the pressure does start to mount for GXR to play fast. Maybe not now, but once you have this E-Blade on your Meepo, once you have more items up on your Lesh, you will want to start looking for more objectives. And Fnatic, with the 2 BKBs up, they will smoke up.
That they will. I think both teams want to try and play for that Roshan. Moonlight Shadow going to be popped. Death going to start moving in. Frontlining for the team. Wants a big target to get started. It might be Mizu that they find. Instead, Jocam does blink away. Chuen going to move in right in onto that Rubik. The Crippling Fury is there. Mizu, it's not going to be enough. Chuen with the BKB does survive. As now the call's there. Alacrity's been caught out. They throw everything at the Meepo immediately to burst him down. Paulison, he's going to try and escape, but there's no way out. Another dunk in from Death. And you saw how fast he blinked, called him. As soon as he saw that Meepo, no games here for Fnatic. They burst him down.
Yeah, it's surprising that Alacrity opted to go for that. Really great punishment from Fnatic for that jump in, but he was just waiting for the E-Blade. Like, if he had that item, you could maybe do the counterplay. GXR wasn't quite lined up for the fight, and it's that BKB effect. Sure, you managed to hold on to your BKB use here on Mizu, but now you know that the silence is not going to do much. First Roshan given away towards the side of Fnatic. No double damage rune this time, Mike.
What?
So no shenanigans for that. It didn't pop. It's not there.
I'll give it 10 seconds, John. Hold on. No, you got to get the one after the Roshan.
Let's see. Come on.
There it is. There it. I told you. I told you.
Are you for real?
It's
What?
before or after Roshan, John. Before or after. It's guaranteed. Every game. I thought it was going to be the top rune spot. That's my bad. It was bottom this time. Right? But it's still got to be a double damage. It's impossible to be anything else at this point.
The good news for GXR is it's not bottled and it's not given to the Luna. So they don't need to worry about that immediate team fight afterwards. And GXR, they do manage to farm into some items here. And the BKB is up on In Your Dream. And again, the E-Blade's been running on Alacrity since after the last fight. So they have tools to play with. They just have to be able to get that control. Oh, DJ clipped again.
He'll get some wards out, though. Bit of a D ward. Nothing wrong with that. DJ, I mean, he's going to find a way down now. He does have a TP, and he'll have to commit it. His team will have to wait if they want to try and force a team fight. But they're going to go bot tier 2 instead. That'll buy DJ plenty of time to make his way over to the team. GXR, they definitely need to do something about this. I mean, their draft can't afford to wait this long. I don't think anyway. DJ, don't play around that area, sir.
Not again,
oh,
what?
He's going right back up. DJ, he just didn't learn his lesson. Or did he? Is this a bait from DJ? Death's in with the call. Alacrity, though, does jump in as well. Meanwhile, Chuen in the backside onto Jocam. Death's not dying. The Eclipse. Alacrity, he's going to get taken down by the Eclipse. Jocam gets tipped. DJ, it was all part of the plan, baby. And now the call's there. They found In Your Dream. The Wonder Boy. In Your Dream's going to try and fight. He'll get a split earth out, but it won't be enough. Jocam, oh, he's going to zip in himself. Nice lift up. Zip back out. Raven, no, he's going to turn. He's still got the Aegis up by Jocam. Nice attempt, sir. As DJ, he has the best seat in the house, John. He's just watching. Front row seats for DJ.
I have never seen that play ever pay off, and it pays off for DJ. In the right spot, great bait play. He knew they couldn't help it. Because every single time you do have to take care of the Abaddon. The issue is they take the fight around the Abaddon anyway. So he still manages to get at least 1 or 2 uses of the Mist Coil and Aphotic Shield, and the jump was there from Fnatic. They held on to the high ground while GXR got that lift from the low ground. So they were just in an unideal position to even find that follow-up fight, and it does cost GXR. Fnatic, they get the 2k lead back, they lose Aegis, sure, but look at how big Raven is. He only has a 1k lead over the Lesh, about 1.3 over Alacrity's Meepo, but he's got the Crystallis up, he's got the Ag Shard up, BKB, Scotty coming out next. This guy is getting very hard to kill, and he's doing a ton of damage while that's happening, and the Shard Mantis has been up for death for a while. So you've got these 2 big scaling heroes that are already set. They can start investing into the Storm a lot more, and Chuwen is going for the Ags. And that's the timing we talked about where it swings back to Fnatic. And that AoE Vortex will just completely ruin the clump up, especially for Alacrity. He's not going to be able to use his items when he's vortexed up on every Meepo.
Big smoke up here from GXR. I think they are starting to feel the pressure. Moonlight Shadow, though, DJ, he's going to break the smoke. This is not the target they wanted to run into, and now Death, he's there with the call. They are going to take down Mizu immediately. Arrow, though, does land. Alacrity going to jump in with the Meepos. Can he take him down? Not yet, Death. He'll get the Manta off the shotgun enough. He gets the call. He will still survive. Alacrity's trying to chase. He'll go on to Jazz with the Spirit Vessel. It's taking him down. Chuan, he does move back in, and now Death, he just won't die. How do you kill Death, John? How do you do it?
You can't. He is beholden to Death himself. He is Death. He's the one that brings it out in GXR. They tried to get the jump. You mentioned it. They're starting to feel that pressure. They feel like they need to get these kills with a Meepo, with that E-Blade up. They need to be able to get that space up because there's no scaling. With a Meepo, with a Lesh, with a Night Stalker, there's just no real late game. And their spike, it only has about like 7 minutes at best in a very optimistic scenario where they still feel overwhelmingly strong. And now Fnatic, from that fight with a top tier 1 gun, 6k lead on hand, the Scotty's up basically for Raven.
Oh, goodness
So
me.
he's got an insane amount of stats. He's very hard to kill off. And for GXR, they need to just be able to isolate some of these heroes. Like DJ was the wrong one to jump. It's hard to say who they can really jump though. Like maybe if you somehow catch Chuwen, or just solo catch the Axe somehow, you can kind of handle that, or even just 1 by 1. The key thing is solo. You need to kill these heroes 1 by 1 because if it's a clump up, I don't think your damage is spreading out fast enough for all of these
Here we
heroes.
go again, Death. It's in that smoke. Mizu, he's had a tough game already on this Night Stalker. Yet to find a kill this game for the poor guy. Death. Oh, this could be a beautiful call again. He's going to jump in right on that Night Stalker, but there is help around. Arrow, not going to land. In fact, Jokam, he lands his own arrow, but the Aphotic Shield was there. DJ going to try and save it. Death, he will finally drop. They'll get him this time. There's Alacrity. Gonna move in now onto DJ. He wants his Abaddon gone as well. He might just get it, but the force stuff. And now the turnaround. Raven, he's gonna try and fight. Eclipse is down. Alacrity's trying to get the Meepos out, but the Vortex is there from Chuwen. And now they'll go right back in on Polison. In your dream, he's gonna try and fight, but they'll just go after the supports instead. Just ignore the Leshrac. They got 1 kill. They got the Axe. Still a nice kill. But you lost your Pos 1 Meepo. You lost your position 5 Enchantress. And GXR with this draft, I mean, it's just going nowhere. It's just getting worse as time goes on.
They're just not finding the heroes they need to jump. And it really does feel like the key thing is they can only go for solo pickoffs now. And they cannot afford to jump multiple heroes. Maybe if you catch the 2 supports, you could. Like you somehow hold off the Abaddon and kill off the Mirana first, take care of the Abaddon after. You can go from there, but they can't do that. Fnatic's just grouped up extremely well. They've managed to work the map perfectly. They're ripping into the high ground, although...
Yeah, Fnatic might need a back Raven. He'll stand his ground now. The Vortex again. Chuwen, he's in at the right time. In your dream. Oh, he had no BKB up. He couldn't fight. And now you've got the Ags there. AoE Vortex is online for Chuwen. Oh, Death. He tried to jump in. He won't get anyone yet, but he's not the man you have to worry about anymore. We're trying to buy some time. That bot rack's going down nice and fast. Call is going to land. Death, he'll leave the Manta Illusions to do the job. And there are enough. They are enough, even with the Aphotic short from Jokam.
Has fallen.
And poor old Jokam, I believe he stole call for himself on the Rubik, of all things.
Great spell.
Yeah.
I don't know if he has the blink. He could try to make a bait play, but I don't know if it'll pay off. The Rax mid tower not going to hold for long. Oh, jump.
Oh, barely missing out on that call. But it won't matter if you can keep just taking these Raxes down. Who the hell cares how many calls you miss?
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Fnatic, they can't go for the final lane of barracks. They've still got a T2 top tower to go after. And Alacrity's already making his way over to that area to try and get the creep wave pushed out, get a bit of farm himself, but he's going to be careful not to run into Fnatic now. And he won't. He will back off in time. He'll be fine.
Yeah, they've got to play a little bit safer on GXR, but they can't afford to stall this game. Again, key thing is get some forward vision out, try to get some forward vision out, and then try to find solo pickoffs one by one. If you catch these heroes by themselves, they are still manageable. It's just getting really dicey. Like with a Satanic Up, I don't even think you can burst the Luna. The self-dispel will just ruin everything. The smoke's here. GXR, you need to find the angle.
Yeah, but DJ's going to break the smoke. Death, he does blink in, but misses out as now Split Earth is going to land. Where is this Night Stalker going? Mizu, he's trying to find the backlines, but nobody's being caught. As now the Vortex Chuen, he's in. They've got In Your Dream again, and he's gone. Onto the Meepo. Alacrity, how do you get him out? He does get him out in time with the poof. Just barely on about 300 HP.
Structures are fortified.
Luckily for GXR, no Roshan up yet. Oh, Mizu. He's still around. Chuen, he's going to zip in for a Vortex. Now the call is there. Death, he actually missed that call, but it may not matter. Mizu, he felt like he desperately needed to get rid of that top wave. And he was probably right in thinking that. But it does cost him his life.
Yep, and they're just going to be able to push that last outer tower. The top racks are not going to last long. Respawns are fairly short, but half a minute. It feels like that's more than enough time for Raven to just get Megas here.
Oh, absolutely. It's just very, very hard to stop this Fnatic side. They're on a real roll today. Onto the barracks. Death, he'll blink forward just in case anyone's laying around, but nobody's there. GXR, what's the game plan now? You're against Megas. Do you go for one final defense? You just call it. It looks like they'll try. Raven, he's going to try and force the GG call out of them. They'll wait for In Your Dream. Mizu, 15 seconds away, but he can buy back. Bloodstone now up on Chuen. Tier 4 towers, they're just dropping. They're going to wait for the whole 5 before they can jump in. Jokam, he's there with the call. He does get it off, but where's your backup? Oh, they've got the axe on the Night Stalker now. Vortex, Chuen is not going to connect it. DJ, he's still a very tanky target. Alacrity, he's in. He's trying to go after the storm, but Death, he's got the call off again. Chuen's gone. They call the GG. They've had enough. Fnatic, they will be leading 2-0 in this best of 5 grand finals. They're now fountain diving them. And my goodness, Sean, I mean, these two games, they've made it look very easy, Fnatic. GXR, I'm not sure what's going on, but they've got to get it together for this game 3.
They really have backs against the wall now for GXR, but Fnatic, they play amazingly well. We thought GXR might have the better time with a very early oriented draft. I think the issue was the Meepo pick. Like, sure, it can play early. It never got off to a running start. They run it safe lane against the Axe, and Death just had a really great lane. Like, Alacrity just couldn't farm. They couldn't zone out that dual lane coming out from Fnatic as well with the Enchantress. They couldn't stop it from Fnatic's side. And it just, I think it was really the fact that the Meepo couldn't hit the item spikes, right? Like, if it did get the earlier Dragon Lances up and then get the Blink and E-Blade quickly, you might have been able to do it. But it looked like they weren't confident in the Meepo versus Storm lane for good reason. Your melee hero, Storm, can just bully you with Vortex and the Remnant and the Overload and just chip away at you until you get your second Meepo. By then, he might have too much to play with. So they had a good initial draft. They tried to surprise with Meepo. Just didn't pan out with the draft. And Fnatic, they play extremely well, not just in their draft, but their execution. Like that bait play by DJ, to have him drag back up with no TP, knowing that the rest of his team was set up on the high ground to jump in.
Yeah.
That just it just shows you how coordinated Fnatic is, and we need to see GXR on that same level as the team.
You love the good old-fashioned cliffbait. TZ obviously a professional at that, but you know, it's whether it works out for him or not, you know, different story entirely. But DJ obviously an expert. We are going to head off to game number 3 though in about 10 minutes, and we'll have the draft up ASAP. For now, it is MLP Dota and JohnXFire, and we'll see you again after this 10-minute break.